University and will graduate next May. He'll be talking about thanks but no thanks, the humble disposition. So y'all go ahead and give it up for him.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Thanks but no thanks, the humble disposition. It's about being a humble leader. I'm David Fageman from Freehold, New Jersey. That's right in that red area of New Jersey in there. I go to Rowan University. It's a up-and-coming university. It's 10,000 students right now, and I love it there. I'm no more qualified or deserving of this chance to speak today than any of you. Actually, the experience of gathering information for you and organizing thoughts so I could present it has been a meaningful learning experience for me, so I'd like to sincerely thank all the organizers for letting me do this. And an aspect of leadership that I sincerely believe in is what I want to share, and frankly, it's not only for leaders, but if everyone in society started being more humble and used more humility in their approach to interactions, the world could take a huge step in the right direction. Mortarboard at Rowan University. Mortarboard National Honor Society at Rowan University is likely smaller than the chapters in most of your schools. When I was tapped in, along with these 16 other students, I had very little idea what I was actually doing there. And at the first meeting, our advisor urged those of us interested in running for the president's position to raise their hands. And I tentatively lifted mine and looked around expecting to see many other hands, and I was the only one. I was the only one raised. Yep, that's good. And before you could say Mortarboard National College Senior Honor Society, I was president. In virtually the same slapdash fashion, I'm here speaking to all of you today about leadership. A lot of you probably feel the same as me. A lot of you, I wasn't expecting to be a leader, and frankly, I'm not exactly sure what my job is yet, and what makes me think I've got what it takes, and I'm about to learn what is it. Yet what I found is that these same fears have been shared by many of our greatest leaders, who privately would question their own abilities, but like it or not, we have a responsibility, and we have to do the job well, lead others, and set positive examples, and eventually accomplish great things. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. Humility is a desired, but often neglected characteristic of good leadership. We started from the bottom, and now we're here. Unlike Drake, we can't forget about the people that are still on the bottom, and we also cannot forget that we can return there just as quickly. Quoting Drake. Pride is a struggle for many leaders, myself included, but we must strive to bring humility into our leadership roles. I remember when I was the president of my first organization, a youth group in high school, we had about 50 members, but for some reason I thought I had to know all the answers, and that I could not really ask for help or else it would show weakness. Student leaders all across the country can feel the same way, and this can lead to a few things, two of them. First, extreme burnout, because you're the only one doing all of the work. And second, a failed organization, because you're not delegating responsibilities. Your people are not being utilized effectively, and they just aren't learning their jobs. I'm Jewish, and in Judaism, we have a belief in the concept of doing mitzvahs or mitzvot. The word's literal translation is commandment or rule, but generally speaking, it's a good deed that you can do in your everyday life. There are all kinds of mitzvot for food, holidays, prayers, kindness, cleanliness, honesty, how to treat others. And you don't do them because it's your job. You don't do them for thanks or pay. You do them because it makes you feel good and makes the world better. It's the right thing to do. Some of the mitzvot that I believe relate most to my talk today about leadership without thanks are the ones related to attending and participating in someone's funeral. We perform this mitzvah because it's moral to make sure that a person is buried honorably. The person whose funeral you're going to, there is no possible way for them to thank you, and you know that going into the funeral. So you're not doing it for thanks, you're not doing it because you get paid, you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And this concept in Judaism is what inspired me to write this speech in the first place. You will not always be there to lead. For one reason or another, in our case, graduation, you'll need to invest in others to have a successful succession plan. You'll need to, if you truly value the vision of your club or family or organization, etc., you will find and teach replacement leaders. This type of preparedness is one of the most telling signs of a great leader. Former General Electric CEO Jack Welch distinguished himself by developing a roster of leaders who were ready to replace him when he retired. It's been almost a decade since Jack Welch was CEO, and his methods and legacy from one of the biggest corporate companies in America is still revered and remembered today. When Neil Armstrong stepped out onto the moon's surface, he accomplished something that billions before and billions after him will never do. He didn't hop out of his spaceship and say, "America, I'm awesome," and in your face, USSR. He used the moment wisely and said,
"Have a sip off the lemon. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
Mission Commander Armstrong knew his place in history. And being a great leader means knowing your place. You will not be a leader forever, and he was looking at the bigger picture. Investing in people guarantees a future to whichever causes you support. Do not let being a leader get to your head. There were good leaders before you, and there's going to be good leaders after you, depending on your leadership. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have a final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant." Humility is not weakness, it is the epitome of strength. Having humility means having the strength of accepting failure and taking risks. A person that is too concerned with their image may not take a risk, as it could jeopardize the image they care about so much. Intelligent people care most about their character, and image is not character. Character is what you are as a person, and that's all we should worry about. Martin Luther King Jr. lived in a time where his best choice was to be gentle, but yet a strong leader. Instead of riots and rebellion, he chose peace talks and sit-ins. He chose, in the face of oppression and cruelty, Martin Luther King Jr. took the humble approach and proved that the pen is mightier than the sword. Jerry Seinfeld said recently, "Always keep your head up in failure and your head down in success." Everyone makes mistakes, and we often learn more through failure than through success. A humble leader is quick to admit when he or she has done wrong and deals with the consequences without using an excuse or a scapegoat. So go ahead that you make mistakes, or you make a lot of mistakes, because no one likes a person that thinks they're perfect. I want you to think about something for a second. Think about the last time you knew someone had messed up but held off from telling you about it. If you're like me, you lost a little bit of respect for that person. The same dynamic applies to mortarboard. If you're not honest to those that will be leading this upcoming year, when we're vulnerable and humble, if you're not honest to those when you make mistakes, they're going to trust you less. But when we're vulnerable and humble enough to share our mistakes with others, an amazing thing occurs because they begin to trust you more. Remaining thankful. It's smart to be humble. People love modest leaders who are appreciative to others on the team. The humble leader praises the action of their teammates far more than patting themselves on the back. for personal accomplishments. They recognize that most good comes from the results of the entire team. So no matter if a large contribution or a small favor was made by a team member, the part that matters is that you give sincere thanks. Revered as one of the most loved captains and leaders in sports today is New York Yankee shortstop Derek Jeter. He has had 20 seasons in the major leagues and was a 14-time All-Star. And at this year's All-Star game, while receiving a standing ovation from the fans, he moves through the dugout of all fellow All-Stars and coaches and thanks each one. These were players from opposing teams that he recognized and thanked. I can't help but believe that this example will influence future leaders positively. Here's a video, hopefully. Quick time, how available? What do you think? Alright, never mind. So, you see Derek Jeter, he's on the field, and they don't take him out in between innings. They let him go onto the field, and in the middle of the inning, they send out a replacement player, just so he can be thanked and cheered by all the fans. The stadium is so loud for Derek Jeter, and he doesn't, raise his fist in pride. He goes to, the first thing he does is go to the dugout and goes down the line and personally shakes the hand and thanks every other player and coach before going back onto the field and taking a bow. The game wouldn't have even went on if he did not take a bow. And he didn't, that wasn't his plan, but he had to do it for the fans. He thanks his mother and father in the crowd, he points to them, and he's just generally shows the humility of a leader. One of the biggest challenges that leaders face is that they do not know how the people they lead truly feel. A humble leader wants to learn from his or her mistakes and wants to continually see improvement. Humble leaders need to initiate other suggestions and feedback, not waiting until complaints come, but personally asking for the input. The key to executing this is just to listen and write down the good and the bad. Don't try to justify what you did wrong or the reasons for it, because if you try to justify it, it will just make people feel like their opinions don't matter in the first place. Wegmans is a food store in the Northeast, and it sounds weird, but it is an awesome grocery store. It sounds like an oxymoron, but this food store is just the best run store you'll ever see. And it's because they have something called Ask Jack. Jack is their human resources manager in corporate. And you can go online, and all the employees have access to this. And I got shown it by one of my friends, and people were asking, what's the difference between broccoli and broccolini? To people asking for new shirt colors for their uniform, to overtime pay and requesting overtime pay, which he ultimately addressed and granted, and the employees were happy with where they were working. That's an example of a very good way of getting feedback from a large company. My presentation focused on the idea that a good leader is one that performs their job without expecting to be recognized for success. Keeping a humble disposition and giving credit where it is due is vital. A leader is not always thanked for their efforts, however. Whether you get recognized for your efforts or not, it should not matter, because the most important thing is that the job at hand got done. Not every leader begins his or her career with followers. Also, in keeping with the thankful theme of my presentation, I want to thank my friends, not that they're here, but my friends and family helped me a lot with ideas and letting me read it to them and telling me what I did wrong and stuff, so they're probably going to see that. Just had to do that. Also, to end my presentation today, I have a relevant joke. Okay, so from high above the tall sailing ship came the call from the crow's nest. A sailor who was looking out through the telescope yelled, "Captain, oh captain, there's a huge enemy pirate ship heading our way from the west." The ship leader replied, "Arr, Bring me my red shirt, so if I am wounded in battle, the bloodstains won't discourage my valiant crew, and they shall fight on. What a guy is thinking about his crew rather than if he gets hurt. About 10 minutes later, came another call from the crow's nest. Captain, oh captain, there are 10 enemy pirate ships coming our way from the east. The captain yelled back, quick, bring me my brown pants. Thank you.